Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new prorevenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Taking Down Queen Karen, President of the Hoa. Okay, this happened years ago, 1985 to be exact. I was 45 when this happened, 81 now. So after my second retirement, I started doing property management. I bought this 2,500 square foot luxury home in with the sole intention of renting it out. Now I didn't know how bad the Hoa was, but when I became the owner I soon found out. This all took place in 2 years' time. Karen would literally have a problem with everyone in the neighborhood. Trash cans left out? Fined. Loud music after 10 p.m? Fined. Yard sale without permission? Fine. Removing dead plants and replanting without approval, you get fined. It went on and on like this. Now the community could run for the Hoa board. But the Hoa board chose the president. 6 out of the 10 members on the board liked Karen, so she always kept her job. Her husband was in the medical field, so he made a lot of money. It got to a point too where she was called Queen Karen in the neighborhood and her dishing out Hoa fines. Now I used to go in person to collect the rent because the people that rented my house were good friends of mine. I did this for months. So I would park my car by the front of the garage. I and my friends were having some music on, but it wasn't that loud. Queen Karen came over driving her golf cart and said, "Queen Karen, excuse me?" Me, yeah? "Queen Karen, you have to turn that music down, it's too loud." I told her that it was 8 p.m. and that music that's even loud can be played until 10. She wasn't having it and demanded that I do so. Now my friends and I kept the music going and we were enjoying ourselves. She proceeded to get angry and fined me. Now, most people will just take the abuse and pay the fine. But not me. I went to the Hoa board, contested the fine and won. From that point on, Queen Karen made it her personal mission to destroy me. She would be *tch and fuss about every little thing. I fought what I could, but I did end up paying for some of it. She also went after my tenants, which made things worse for me. I had a sit down with my friends one night to discuss the problem. When I parked my car, Queen Karen came over in her robe and said I have to park somewhere else. I did because I didn't want to start anything. We see her go back into her house and embrace a man that isn't her husband. We were being noisy and we came to the conclusion that she was cheating on her husband. Spoiler alert. She was. My friends and I told Queen Karen's husband. I'm sure he did some investigation because 3 months later they divorced and he was moving his stuff out. Now gossip said that Queen Karen got nothing because she was the one that cheated and she didn't have a job. So she wasn't entitled to the money. From this point on, Queen Karen had a massive decline in the quality of life that she had. She sold her car and got a cheaper one and she adopted different dressing habits. But even after the divorce she never got a job and she was still living somewhat better than everyone else. Fast forward to 1986. In February, Queen Karen and the Hoa had been giving out fines for very obscure things and increased monthly dues. Having trash cans out a couple of hours early or after the trash man left would result in a fine. Targeting people that had older or dirty cars goes on and on. Me and the other people the community were sick of the crap that she and the Hoa were pulling. So at the next meeting, we made out voices our concerns. Queen Karen said that the community had been falling behind on repairs and that the dues and increase in fines were necessary, especially if people weren't maintaining their own property. She said that it was in the yearly budget report and that we should have read it. The other *SSED residents and I go and read the statement. Now none of us read it because we take it as a junk mail and disregard it. But we read the whole statement cover to cover. Queen had increased the Hoa budget 15% and where that extra money was going remained unknown. We went over to her house the next day and demanded to know where the extra money was being spent. But she refused several times. She closed the door and went back to watching TV. We filing a joint lawsuit to find out where the money was going. In June we found out. Cue the revenge. Queen Karen was living off Hoa fines and dues. The increase is because she was running out of money. She still didn't have a job, so she embezzled from the Hoa so she wouldn't have to get a job. She gets busted. We call the police for her embezzling the money. She was charged with fraud and extortion. The neighbors and I filed a joint lawsuit against Karen to get reimbursement as well. Because she had no money, so she had to mortgage her house to pay us all. She later went to federal prison for 6 years with no parole. Because she went away, no one was paying on her house. The bank foreclosed on it and it was bought by someone else. So when she got out in 1992, she was homeless. Honestly, the majority of us didn't want to ruin her life like this. Had she toned down the excessive fines, we would have let her be. But she had to double down and steal from us because she didn't want to get a job like everyone else. The next one is titled, "You Really Want to Know Exactly Where I Am Right Now?" Oh, I'll tell you exactly. More than a decade ago, I was an at-large quality inspector for a large industrial manufacturer. I say at large because a majority of my work was on the plant floor, with my office only being used for paperwork and the occasional precision inspection. In the approximately 2.5 years that I worked there, I had 7 different people as my boss. 9 if you count the 2 guys that were in charge of my work twice. Zappa was an engineer from overseas, and his culture tends to produce arrogance in people that gain positions of authority. I don't have a problem with people from that country, but both Zappa and his boss are some of the most arrogant men I have ever met. Topping that list is a professor from the same country. All of the supervisors and quality staff are required to have a radio. Our radios had several channels, and the QA team had their own. This would seem to make any conversation private, but the line inspectors all wore radios, so a lot of the plant could hear them. This particular bit of MC starts with a biological break. I am almost finished doing my business when I get called over the radio. Zappa, Tails, this is Zappa. Tails, go for Tails. Zappa, where are you right now? Not wanting to give the whole plant a mental picture they can't unsee, I reply with, indisposed. I can meet in 5 minutes, just tell me where. Zappa, but where are you right now? Tails, not currently available. Zappa, Tails, tell me where you are, right now. It sounds like he wants to chew my butt. Little did he know. Okay, boss, you asked for it. Tails, I am currently in the 4th stall from the door in the east bathroom, sitting down and feeling much better. There is a pause on the other end of the line. I'm pretty sure that he was with someone else at the time, but I'll never know. When you are finished, he said quietly, please see me in my office. Of course. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I don't remember what was so important, but it wasn't anything that couldn't have waited 5 minutes. But he never pressed me over the radio again. The next one is titled, Finish My Task and Get the Next One from Her Every Time. I'll be by her side like glue. I work at the Orange Fabric Hardware store, located mainly on N.A. continent. I was putting myself through college on the overnight team. Working 9 p.m. 4/5 am and then having class at 7 a.m. and labs until 5 p.m. most evenings meant my allowance for BS was low. I'm a science degree. I always had labs. I was supposed to clock off at 1 each night since I was only part-time. I was only taking 15 credits. So sometimes there would be an hour or 2 between classes or a class would get cancelled. So I'd nap in my 2001 Ford Expedition from my last class and lab if I didn't have any work to do. And weekends are great for catching up on sleep. At the Orange Fabric store, they consider it a working warehouse, so they have all the powered lift equipment, and I was pretty good at it, so good that after 4 years there I was the only person trained on one of the machines for my singular team stocking freight. The think a cherry picker with a 4-foot metal platform attached for the uninformed. The problem, because I was in school, I refused to work late evenings before tests, and I would sometimes call out entirely for big exams. It was the primary use of my sick vacation time. My supervisor and the operations manager above me loved me, so it was no problem. Until cool bosses left. Enter D**CK manager and ditzy supervisor. D**CK manager wanted to clean house of anyone who could think for themselves. Meaning someone like me. The ditzy supervisor wanted to be promoted quickly, so she did whatever DM wanted. The prelude and the act, DM and DS, were being ridiculous one night, and I had an exam the next morning. So I started getting things ready for me to do op work. I planned on leaving at 1. I talked with DS about it 2 weeks prior and had gotten it in writing from the store manager. DM and DS stopped me asking what I was doing. No one was leaving until everyone was done. We had 5 people, and got from 3 to 4 trucks a week. To say we were behind was an understatement. Closing parenthesis. Me, I have an exam in the morning, I'm the only one who can do these tasks. I'm getting them done before I have to leave. It's around 11 o'clock. DM looks at me, says, okay, go about your business. The next day I come in and get called into the office. DM and DS are there. DM, last night we noticed that you were doing tasks that weren't functioning with the group, and while we didn't explicitly say not to do them, you were asked to work freight, not the op work. Me, isn't the op just another part of the freight? And I had an exam. Looks at DS. You were aware, it's on the note here and in the system. DS, while that's true, since you're a veteran member of the team, we need you to be more proactive and showing the new guys what to do, who in charge. DM, so from now on, every task must be given to you explicitly by DS. If you're seen doing something that isn't from her direct orders, then you're not to do it. When you finish your tasks, you're to go to her and get your next one. Me, stares. My father was in the military, and my grandfather was a die. I'm told I'm quite stone-face. DM, we need you to sign this stating that you understand. It was one of the sheets they use when doing non-fireable punishments. Basically, you've been told you're screwing up. If you keep it up, we'll use this against you later if we decide we want to be rid of you. And they stay in the computer system for 6 months. So, for example, you can only be late 4 times in a 6-month period. So say you're late 3 times in January. If you're late before a certain date in June, they'll put you on a final warning. It didn't matter what I did, I was under DS's heels waiting for my next task the moment I was done. If she was in a meeting with another associate, I waited outside the door. If she was on lunch, I waited for her to decide to take notice of me. If she was in the bathroom, guess who was right outside the door? To top it off, I made some charts and spreadsheets of my grades from when I had the good bosses and then the new situation. After reviewing them with my store manager, I convinced her that under no exception am I to be kept late. So for the next 5 months, I left exactly at 1:01. If they tried to keep me later, the manager called DS and DM in for a tongue lashing. Last October, I switched from this job to the loading one. Much better job with only 1/4 the stress. Load carts and load people's purchases. I'm in the process to enlist. After a bit, we collected enough evidence on DM that when we sent the pictures and such to corporate, they moved him to a lower performing store. The next one is titled, Don't Ask Questions? Okay, I'll just let you ruin thousands of dollars of equipment. A few years back, I was working in a food manufacturing facility. I was a newer hire and basically what you'd call a grunt. I was only there because they hadn't figured out how to automate my job yet. This particular company was a great place to work and our sanitation programs and general cleanliness were world-class. In addition to doing our normal daily equipment cleanings, we would be doing scheduled heat treatments a few times per year on every piece of equipment. The thought was that some pathogens could start to become chemical resistant, so every so often we would cook the crap out of the equipment in an oven. Nothing would survive, it would be like starting over. Not a bad idea. Many companies do this, particularly meat packaging plants. My foreman was a bitter woman. She was the worst ball buster there was. She would throw you under the bus and berate you every chance she got. Unless that is, you were one of her friends. They got a free pass. She was tasked with helping spearhead this heat treatment project. We had a temporary enclosure made out of very heavy mill plastic sheeting and a steam wand teed off the plant's steam boiler piping. We tossed a couple of temperature probes in the enclosure. This whole thing was a proof of concept before the owner dropped a fortune on a gigantic oven big enough to fit a few medium-sized cars in, for heat treating equipment. So my foreman delegated the task of trialing the heat treatment process even though it was her project. She wasn't very bright, so she made me do it because I was the new guy. We had an entire production line shut down for a week. I had to move every single piece of equipment across the building and steam cook them one at a time. Some of these machines weighed as much as 2 tons. I was lucky to get a couple of pieces of equipment done per day. I told my foreman that the heat was too much for the food-grade grease in the bearings, the hydraulic systems, and the moisture from the steam would destroy electrical components. She didn't care. Very rudely she told me not to ask any questions and just do what I was told. Being a foreman in an industrial environment, I could not believe how mechanically inept she was. This was not the first time she had directed us to make bad decisions with expensive equipment. Okay, I said. I spent the next 4 days getting paid over $20 an hour to destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. All the bearing shields blew out, all of the seals on the hydraulic motors failed, and I destroyed the contents of a few electrical panels along the way. The problem was that the temperature probes were placed on stainless steel pieces of equipment. If the surface of that equipment was 175*F, the air inside the enclosure was well over 250*F near the top of the enclosure. Heat rises, bro. The maintenance department was absolutely livid. A dozen pieces of equipment needed total overhauls. Sensors were damaged, electrical contacts were corroded. Everything was covered in hydraulic oil from the fluid expanding and rupturing the housing and disconnect seals. It was a nightmare. Our plant manager was understandably upset and wondered why my foreman didn't call him after I ruined the first piece of equipment so we could stop and reevaluate the process. I didn't catch any heat for it. Ellipsis. And my foreman, later on, was let go for personal misconduct. A bunch of us were questioned by upper management about some other incidents, namely having a relationship with a subordinate. I'm sure destroying a bunch of equipment and incurring a week or so of lost production time didn't look good on her resume either. For those of you asking, I did my due diligence and I felt guilty about what I did, but I wasn't risking being fired for insubordination. I talked to a foreman on another shift and our maintenance supervisor, but my orders remained the same. I was a new employee and I had no idea how to get in touch with the owner or other people in higher management. It was a huge company that employed thousands. I don't know the exact way it panned out. They obviously don't tell us why our boss is gone. I am sure this incident didn't do her any favors. The last one is titled, "Play a Joke on Me at Work." Hope you can take a dose of your own medicine. I used to sell cars, and one Saturday, a very busy Saturday where people were buying left and right, I had just finished up with one customer and was looking for the next one. One of my coworkers walked up to me with an older couple and said he had an appointment who just showed up, so could I help his customers? They're looking at whatever. Sure, I can help. Well, I get to talk to these folks and they're not buyers. They're not even close. They were just there to waste time. A few minutes later, I see my coworker pointing and laughing with a couple of managers at how he had just pawned off some tire kickers on me. So I politely got the lookers to leave and started plotting. I knew it was supposed to rain later that week, and I knew there was a truck on the very far end of the lot with a dead battery. The lot was very long and thin, about 100 yards deep and 400 yards wide. The showroom was not quite in the middle, and it was about 300 yards from there to the far end of the lot where the truck was located. This truck was a honeypot. It was a heavy-duty truck that was just completely loaded. Huge markup. I have a friend who used to be in the auto industry. She had worked sales and finance for 20 years. She knows her SH*T. More importantly, she knows all the sweet nothings to say to a salesman to get his juices flowing. I got her to call him and start talking about how she needs a high-dollar truck for her business because she needs a tax write-off. Something like a truck she saw on our website, stock number XYZ. Cash in hand, ready to buy. Then she asked for an appointment on that rainy Wednesday, which also happened to be his day off. Wednesday comes around and it's disgusting. It's just pouring. The dealership had a covered golf cart for driving around the lot with customers in the rain, but its batteries had SH*T the bed a few weeks prior. My coworker showed up on his day off, all excited for this big fish sale. The deal my friend had discussed with him was just too good to be true, so he was ecstatic to be there. This was the kind of deal that would make his month and then some. He went and got the key, trudged through the rain, all the way to the far end of the overflow lot, and tried to start the truck to pull it around. Nope, the battery was flat. So he had to walk all the way back to the showroom in the pouring rain, get a jump box, and walk back out to the truck and jump start it. At this point, he's soaked. His pants are all wet from walking back and forth in puddles. He had gotten all wet while he was trying to jump start the truck because it's impossible to jump start a huge truck while holding an umbrella. Finally, he pulled the truck up front. The appointment was set for 1 p.m. That time came and went, so he called my friend at about 1:30. My friend says, "Sorry, I'm running late, I'll be there about 3 or so." 3 o'clock comes and goes, and no buyer has shown up. He calls her again and nothing. She completely ghosted him. So he had to take the truck back to its spot, with rain still coming down. He was so mad, yet he never knew it was me the whole time. Still has no idea to this day. Thanks for listening.